Welcome to Uniting the Cults. This is another video of the same kind. I'm going to be checking what Mohammed Hijab is saying to Pearl. It's at Just Pearly Things.
Oh my gosh, I had another question. So when I was growing up, they always told us that like Muslim countries, they don't have rights and whatever.
Yeah.
Not saying that's true. I'm just saying this
Yeah,
is
sure.
what we're told. And then I interviewed someone that was from Saudi Arabia, and that was, the one place that they always told me like women can't drive there.
Is that what you advocate?
Well, I mean, now I'm like, well, I mean, I know someone whose wife is paralyzed because of a woman driving. So
so are you for that or against?
So I think Saudi Arabia has already corrected this. Women can drive there now. But I want to point out something more general. She asked the question, or she said the claim that she said people don't have rights in Muslim majority countries. She didn't even say women yet, unlike the title. But women was implied, I guess, because right away they're talking about women driving. And I think that's the question is already starting to be wrong. Don't have rights. It's a matter of degrees or like number, like things. So like in the US, women didn't have the right to vote until, was it the 20s, 1920s? And now they do. So like even in the US, which is 250 years old, there were big categories of people that didn't have some rights that other people did. But more generally, there's also rights that the entire people of a country might not have that they should have. But let's see what they talk about here.
Against that?
No. I make jokes. But
okay.
No, like, women should be able to drive if they're good drivers, but I do know that we cause more accidents based on how much we drive. Men cause more, but they drive more, like you have truckers and stuff.
Sure. So
anyway. So
I find that interesting. I thought you'd take the pro-Saudi position.
No, it was more like I kind of understand where they're coming from.
Sure.
but anyways,
but
don't quote me on that.
But the women vote, though. I think, even though the elections
most places
are not.
women vote, right? I mean,
yeah.
Anyways,
go on.
Why is there a conception that women don't have rights in Muslim countries, and is there any truth to it?
Well, look, I mean, let me tell you something, Pearly, right? If you had a manifesto of what women should and shouldn't do, including number one, voting, etc., yeah, most people would say the country that Pearly runs would be a country that women don't have as much rights. But
I'm sure they would. I was like, maybe we'd agree. I don't know.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when we say women don't have it.
So I don't know what they're talking about here. I don't know Pearl's history or her views on women or what women's rights should be. But apparently Mohammed Hijab does know, and they're sort of talking about it as if, they've had these discussions.
Any rights? I mean, according to whose conception? According to the feministic conception, absolutely. They would not be happy with a lot of the norms and the traditions of the Muslim world. But we have to be very specific as to what we're asking about. Like, if we're asking about women owning property, then surely in Islam, I mean, women were allowed to own property before they were allowed to in many parts of the West. That was always a thing that women can do. On the
what is the point of comparing Islam to the West 1400 years ago? The point is to ignore what it is like now. She didn't ask what it's like 1400 years ago. She asked what it is like now.
The issue of voting, I mean, we don't have necessarily votes because democracy is a Western concept. But we had something called Pledge of Allegiance. And that.
So there you go. You just said it. People in general don't have the right to vote. So let's be more clear. The right to be represented by the people that the people want. I mean, that is what voting is. It's an attempt to try to get a leader that the people want that leader, versus you have a leader that no one wants, no one asked for, and they're there by force. Like a military coup.
That was both men and women were allowed to do so. For example, on the issue of whether a woman has a say in the marriage, surely she does have a say in the marriage. And in fact, there's a verse in the Quran that says that a woman has as much as the man has in terms of rights, except that the man has 1 degree over her. So the Quran does not embellish the rights of the man as much as the Western man thinks that it does. Of course, there is such a thing as obedience, and of course, there's such a thing as gender roles. Of course, there's such a thing as polygamy in Islam, that man can marry multiple wives, and the polygyny, really.
What if she says no to it? What if he says, I want wife number 2, and she says no?
Look, no one can force anyone to do anything they don't want to do, especially if she had put that as a stipulation in the contract for marriage.
Then he...
That is such a stupid statement. No one can force anyone to do anything they don't want to do. People do it routinely, and that's why we have laws against it. And we put people in jail for it.
You can't do it?
If she, according to one view, another view says that he can still do it because it's his God-given right. But
what's your view?
I take the first view.
That
if she had put it in the contract, he has to follow that.
Okay.
But if she hasn't put it in the contract, then he can
just take the L.
Yeah.
Sorry, just take the L.
Well, for the woman, you're saying.
Well, if she didn't want it, it'd be an L, right?
Yeah, sure, but it's not going to be like that because in practice.
Well, Westerners are in soft polygamy anyway, so that's the thing.
So in practice, even if there's a Muslim that interprets Islam as saying the man can only have the second, third, and fourth wife if he first gets permission from the first, second, and third wife. But there's a lot of Muslims that go against that. They do things like go get a second wife and don't even tell the first wife. And then the first wife finds out after the second marriage produces 2 kids that are 5 years old now. I know specific cases like this that happened. People I know.
It's like, I'm like, guys, you realize that if you have an ex-boyfriend, you're in soft polygamy in a way. Or like if you're in a situationship, that's basically polygamy. The women have more rights under Islam.
Yeah.
Like in a way.
I agree. No, I agree with that. Look,
but that's why like they'll kind of I'm not for polygamy, so don't misquote.
That's very interesting.
I know. Well, okay.
Really?
How do I put this? I'm not for or against. I think people are gonna do what they're gonna do.
So if you were married and your husband wanted to get a second wife, what would you say?
I'd just rather not.
Okay, no, what if he does it?
I'd say, could we not? Well, I mean, if I have a kid by him, like you gotta stick it out at that. Like, what are you gonna do? Go be a single mom? Like, yeah, your life will it be better?
But you would say to him you'd rather not. But
yeah, I mean, I think
what if a man was married and wanted you as a second wife, or third, or fourth?
I'd rather not. You know, I've had actually somewhat offers like that.
Oh, really?
Okay, I'm okay on that.
From people in the Muslim community.
Yeah, but not. I don't want to. But like,
fair enough.
I mean, I don't know how serious they were.
No, probably
like,
fully serious because they can marry a Christian woman. They're allowed to.
I don't know. I didn't explore it that far because.
No, but I find that interesting because it seems to me that
I think a lot of Christians are hypocritical.
Maybe you're affected by feminism a little bit here.
Maybe. No. I think Christians are hypocritical.
Go on.
Okay, because the Christians.
Let's just clarify. Feminism, from what I understand, it just means. And I want to be clear, if we weren't so fucked up, we wouldn't need feminism. So feminism is just trying to correct a wrong. And the wrong is where men have rights that women don't have and should have. And we're talking about rights that it's correct for men to have them, but then women should have them also. And that's all feminism is. It's not about trying to get women to have things that men don't have, like sort of a revenge. for past bullshit men did to women. That's not what it's about.
Will say the Muslims are so bad because they do the polygamy. You guys can't have polygamy, yada, yada, yada. And okay, maybe one part of me understands where they're coming from. It's kind of weird to me for a guy to have multiple wives. That's odd.
Really?
Wait. But I think it's hypocritical because, I mean, ladies, how many of us were virgins on our wedding days? Like, it's like
no, in the Muslim
3%.
community, it's like 90%.
Yeah, well, okay, I'm talking about, like, I'm saying this is why it's hypocritical.
Sure.
How many women have been with a cheating ex-boyfriend? Like, everyone. How many women in the West have shared a man at some point?
See, that stuff doesn't apply to the Muslim community almost at all.
I understand, but I'm saying, like, in the West, it's
I'm with you.
I think it's really hypocritical for them to judge the polygamy so harshly when we are effectively doing the same thing, because most women share a man at some point.
I don't know why she's
even
saying
in
I'm guessing that the particular people in the West that criticize the polygamy in Islam, those particular people may be people that are very much unlike what she's describing here. It's like she's taking all of the Western people, of like what, 1 billion people, and averaging them out into one person, as if that one person has one set of views, and then pointing out a contradiction. But it could be two different people that have these contradictory ideas. So it's not one person contradicting himself. Of course, there could be that, but that's not what she's describing here.
Christian, because most Christians, like statistically, in the West, 3% of women are waiting for a religious reason for marriage. So it's not like even the tradcon women are doing it. Like, I just think it's a bit hypocritical.
Yeah.
That's
let me be clear. Like, on the most contentious issues that affect women today in Islam, I would say number one is polygamy, or the man that can have up to 4 wives at one time. A woman cannot do the same. A man can marry a Christian or a Jew, whereas a woman can only marry a Muslim man.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because it's like you're supposed to, well, even in the Christian point of view, like if you submit, I think it's weird when women don't take their husband's religion, because it's like if you're supposed to trust him in all things.
Sure, no, we wouldn't go that far. We would say a woman still.
I don't know what she's saying here. Shouldn't the man also trust women in all things? Why wouldn't it go the other way? This doesn't make any sense to me. And she's not giving a reason here.
Has to think for herself. I mean, definitely.
Well, yeah, but why would you be with a guy where you don't trust his judgment? That's like
but with religion, everyone has to.
The other way around. Why would the man be with the woman if he doesn't trust her judgment? And why doesn't? And by that same logic, her logic, why wouldn't the woman take the man's, or why wouldn't the man take the woman's religion?
Their own judgment.
Well, yeah, I think.
Yeah, no, I get you. Okay, so the third thing is obviously on this point, obedience.
Okay.
So you got to obey the husband. Number
let's follow it up with what happens if the woman doesn't obey. So in Islam, and I think it's Quran 4:34, it says that effectively women are supposed to obey their husbands, and if they don't, then the men get to beat the women in order to get them to obey. And there's no equivalent thing in the other direction, because you can only have one direction. And this is very consistent with the rest of how Islam works. Islam doesn't see human interaction as win-win, where two people can come to agreement without anyone obeying. It instead sees human interaction as win-lose, where every interaction there has to be a master and a slave, somebody that obeys and somebody that commands. And then Islam goes further and picks who wins every time. Muslim against non-Muslim, man against woman, adult against child.
4 is inheritance, because there's some disparity in the way the inheritance is distributed. Not always necessarily not favoring the woman, but it's just not 50-50 at all cases. Sometimes actually favors the woman. It depends on the situation. And finally, I would say the fifth most contentious issue is that affects women today I think that's it. I think these are the 4 big issues, you know.
Are we allowed to? We're not allowed to show our hair, right?
Yeah, okay, the dress code, fair enough. Yeah.
No, well, I would think that's because I've heard. I haven't seen too much of Lauren Southern's old stuff, but she recently did a hit piece on the red pill, so I saw the beginning, and I guess she was very anti-Islam, and I don't know. I wasn't really that politically involved during this time, but she was saying like under Sharia law you have to cover your hair. Is that okay?
For a woman, but there's no punishment if she doesn't do it. Like, it's not. So, like, for example, a woman comes out into a Muslim country and she doesn't have a headscarf on. What's going to happen? Is he going to whip her? Is he going to stone her? There's no such punishment that's prescribed in Islam. Do you know what I mean? So this is an obligation, but there's no penal punishment that if she doesn't do it, then this is going to happen. These are, I would say, fair enough. These are the 5 things that are you would consider to be, from a feminist perspective, wrong. Obviously, from our perspective, we consider it to be right.
Well, that didn't have very much in it. I thought there was going to be a lot more. The last thing I wanted to say towards the end of that is, even if Islam doesn't impose a penalty for not wearing a scarf, or, the hijab, there are particular Muslims and particular Muslim majority countries that make it happen anyway. The penalty, they make up a penalty. And this is very common with Muslims and Islam, and I think every religion, but I think Islam more so, and I have reasons for that. If anyone wanted to ask me, please go ahead and ask me. Iran is a big one that does this. They have a penalty. They have a morality police that runs around beating the shit out of people for not wearing the scarf, the hijab. All right, that's enough for this one.